Welcome to the Curiosity and Co podcast, conversations for the incurably curious. In a world racing towards fast paced answers, at Curiosity and Co, we slow down to explore questions that shape our inner lives and collective realities. This is a place for thinkers, readers, and the wanderers of the mind, those who find wonder in ideas and meaning in complexity. Hosted by a mind drawn to philosophy, psychology, and the hidden logic of the world, each episode offers a reflective dive into philosophy, science, psychology, and how we think, live, and relate to the world. Whether drawing from the timeless thinkers or modern scientific insights, the podcast invites you to stretch your perspective and see the familiar in unfamiliar ways. Tune in for the ideas, stay for the insight. Because curiosity isn't just a trait, it's a worldview. Welcome to the Curiosity and Co podcast, the podcast where we dive beneath the surface of human experience to explore the science, psychology, and philosophy that shape our lives. I'm your host, and today we are examining something universally human yet rarely discussed with the depth it deserves: the phenomena of missing out. What does it mean to miss out? Is it simply the absence of an experience or something more profound? Today, we will journey through the cutting edge research in psychology and neuroscience, explore philosophical frameworks that have grappled with absence and presence for millennia, and ultimately ask, is missing out an inevitable part of the human condition or something we can transcend? Segment 1: The Neuroscience of Missing Out. Let us begin in the most tangible place we can: the brain itself. When we talk about missing out, we are not just describing a social media phenomena or modern anxiety. We are talking about something that activates specific neural pathways, triggers measurable physiological responses, and fundamentally shapes how we process reality. Research in social neuroscience has shown that experiences of exclusion activate the same neural regions involved in physical pain. In classic fMRI studies by Eisenberger and Lieberman in 2003, when participants were left out of a simple ball tossing game, their anterior cingulate cortex and right ventral prefrontal cortex lit up, the same areas that became active when we experience physical injury. This isn't metaphorical. The brain processes social exclusion as a genuine threat to survival, a response that makes evolutionary sense when we consider that for most of human history, being excluded from the group meant death. But here's where it gets fascinating. The brain doesn't just respond to actual exclusion, it responds to imagined exclusion with almost equal intensity. Research published in the Journal of Social and Clinical Psychology in 2018 found that limiting social media use significantly reduced loneliness and depression, suggesting that even passive exposure to others' experiences can trigger stress responses similar to direct rejection. The physiological cascade is remarkable. Within seconds of perceiving we are missing out, our sympathetic nervous system activates. Cortisol floods our bloodstream. Our heart rate increases. Our pupils dilate slightly. We are literally entering a mild fight or flight state in response to what? Often nothing more than pixels on a screen showing us lives we are not living. Neuroscience research reveals that our brains are constantly engaged in what scientists call counterfactual thinking, generating alternate versions of reality where we made different choices, attended different events, lived different lives. This mental time, this mental time travel isn't just daydreaming, it's a fundamental cognitive process that helps us learn from experience and plan for the future. This constant comparison between what is and what could have been creates neural pathways that become increasingly active as we age and accumulate more potential missed opportunities. The anterior insula, in particular, plays a crucial role in this temporal comparison, constantly asking, what if? But perhaps most intriguingly, research suggests that the intensity of missing out experiences correlates with our capacity for theory of mind, our ability to imagine the mental states of others. The more sophisticated our social cognition, the more acutely we can imagine what we are not experiencing. This raises a profound question. Is the pain of missing out the price we pay for consciousness itself? Segment 2: The Psychology of Choice and Regret. To understand missing out psychologically, we need to examine its relationship with choice, regret, and what researchers call opportunity cost awareness. Barry Schwartz's groundbreaking work, The Paradox of Choice, which we talked about in previous episodes, revealed something counterintuitive. More options don't make us happier, they make us more aware of what we are not choosing. Every decision becomes an exercise in conscious exclusion. But let's dig deeper into the mechanisms. Sheena Iyengar's jam study at Columbia University, where the customers faced with 24 jam varieties were less likely to make a purchase than those with only 6 options. It wasn't just about decision paralysis. Follow up interviews revealed that those who did purchase from the larger section reported significantly higher levels of regret and wondering about the paths not taken. The psychological architecture of missing out involves several key components. First, there is what Daniel Kahneman calls focusing illusion, our tendency to overweight the importance of any single experience or choice. When we imagine missing out on a party, a job opportunity, or a relationship, we focus intensely on that singular event and inflate its potential impact on our overall life satisfaction. Second, there is affective forecasting bias. Research by Tim Wilson at the University of Virginia consistently shows that we are remarkably bad at predicting how future events will make us feel and for how long. We imagine missing out on something will haunt us indefinitely, when in reality, our psychological immune system is far more resilient than we anticipate. But here's where it gets psychologically complex. Missing out isn't always about external experiences. Often, it's about missing out on versions of ourselves. Hal Hirschfield's research on future self psychology reveals that we maintain elaborate mental models of who we could become. These aren't just daydreams, they are psychologically real entities that influence our decision making, our goal setting, and crucially, our sense of loss when certain life paths become impossible. When a 40-year-old looks back and realizes they will never be a professional athlete, they are not just mourning missed experiences, they are mourning a potential identity that can no longer be actualized. This phenomena represents one of the most under examined sources of existential distress in modern life. The social comparison component cannot be overstated. Leon Festinger's social comparison theory, first articulated in 1954, predicted much of what we are experiencing in our hyperconnected age. We evaluate our lives not in absolute terms, but relative to others. Social media has created an unprecedented laboratory for upward social comparison, where we constantly measure our behind the scenes reality against everyone else's highlight reel. But here's what's psychologically fascinating. Research by Sonia Lumbersky shows that people who engage in frequent social comparison are paradoxically less aware of their own preferences and values. The more we focus on what others are doing that we are not, the less connected we become to what we actually want to be doing. This creates what I call the missing out spiral. We feel bad about missing experiences we don't actually want because we have lost touch with what we do want while obsessing over what others appear to have. The solution isn't simply comparison is the thief of joy, though that is true enough. The solution lies in understanding what psychologist Christine Neff calls self compassionate choice making decisions from a place of self understanding rather than social positioning. But even this psychological framework raises deeper questions. If we could eliminate all social comparison, all regret, all awareness of opportunity cost, would we still be recognizably human? Or would we be something else entirely? Segment 3: Philosophical Frameworks from Aristotle to Existentialism. The experience of missing out isn't new to the human condition. Philosophers have grappled with absence, potentiality, and the road not taken for millennia. Let's explore how different philosophical traditions have understood this fundamental aspect of existence. Aristotle gave us the concept of potentiality. In his metaphysics, every being exists in the state of tension between what it is, actualitas, and what it could become, potentia. For Aristotle, missing out isn't a bug in the human system, it's a feature. The capacity to perceive unrealized potential is what drives all change, growth, and development. But Aristotle also warned us against what he called the paralysis that comes from being overwhelmed by too many possibilities. His concept of eudaimonia, often translated as happiness but better understood as human flourishing, requires choosing some potentials and allowing others to remain unrealized. The virtuous life for Aristotle isn't about maximizing experiences, it is about actualizing the right potentials at the right time. The Stoics took a radically different approach. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "How much trouble he avoids, who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does, but only to what he does himself." For the Stoics, missing out was a category error, a failure to distinguish between what is within our control and what is not. Epictetus taught his students to practice negative visualization, deliberately imagining loss and absence to cultivate appreciation for what they had. In Stoic practice, the fear of missing out was transformed into gratitude for what was present. They weren't trying to eliminate desire, but to redirect it toward what they called preferred indifference, things that might be nice to have but aren't necessary for flourishing. But it was the Buddhist tradition that developed perhaps the most sophisticated understanding of missing out as a form of suffering. The second noble truth identifies tanha, literally thirst, as the root of all suffering. This isn't just desire for things we don't have, but the more subtle suffering that comes from the very structure of wanting itself. Buddhist psychology describes something called hungry ghost consciousness, beings with enormous appetites but tiny mouths, forever consuming but never satisfied. This is remarkably similar to what we might call chronic missing out syndrome, the modern condition of infinite consumption possibilities coupled with finite attention and time. The existentialists brought a new dimension to this conversation. Kierkegaard's concept of angst, existential anxiety, wasn't about fear of death or failure, but about the dizzying awareness of our own freedom to choose. For Kierkegaard, the anxiety of missing out was actually the anxiety of being responsible for our own existence. Jean Paul Sartre took this further. His famous declaration that we are condemned to be free implies that missing out is the inevitable consequence of authentic existence. Every choice we make eliminates infinite other possibilities. To choose is to miss out. To live is to continuously mourn unrealized alternatives. But Sartre also offered hope, radical responsibility. If we are truly free, then we are also free to define what constitutes missing out. We are not passive victims of circumstance, we are active creators of meaning. Martin Heidegger introduced the concept of thrownness, the idea that we are thrown into existence in a particular place, time, and circumstance without our choosing. Much of what we imagine we are missing out on isn't actually available to us. It's fantasy projection. Heidegger argued that authentic existence requires accepting our thrownness while still embracing our possibilities within that context. But perhaps the most profound philosophical insight comes from Maurice Merleau-Ponty's phenomenology of perception. Merleau-Ponty argued that consciousness itself is structured around absence. We perceive things by perceiving what they are not. We understand presence through absence. In this view, missing out isn't a psychological problem to be solved, it is the fundamental structure of awareness itself. This leads to a startling conclusion. To exist consciously is to miss out constantly. Every moment of focused attention is simultaneously a moment of infinite inattention. Every experience is also an infinity of non experiences. The question becomes not how do we stop missing out, but rather how do we miss out? Well, segment 4, the digital age and hyper awareness. We have established that missing out is a fundamental aspect of conscious existence. But something qualitatively different has emerged in the digital age, what researchers call hyper awareness of alternatives. Never before in human history have we had such detailed real time information about what we are not doing. Linda Stone, a former technology executive, coined the term continuous partial attention to describe how we are simultaneously engaged in multiple streams of information about possible experiences. Dr. Sherry Turkle's research at MIT on technology and relationships further documents how digital connectivity has fundamentally changed how we relate to ourselves and others. The result is what I think we can call exponential opportunity cost awareness. Pre digital age, you might wonder what was happening at the party you did not attend. Now you can watch it unfold in real time through Instagram stories, Snapchat updates, and live tweets. You're not just missing the experience, you are witnessing your absence from it moment by moment. Research suggests that heavy social media users may show different patterns of attention and satisfaction when presented with choices, though the specific neural mechanisms are still being studied. But the digital age hasn't just amplified existing psychological tendencies, it has created entirely new categories of missing out. FOBO, FOBO, fear of better options, emerges when dating apps suggest that your perfect match might be just one swipe away. FOGI, fear of joining in, describes the anxiety of posting on social media due to worry that nobody will want to connect or engage with you. There is also what we might call temporal compression of regret, a phenomena where digital technology has accelerated the timeline of regret. Traditional regret developed slowly, over months or years as we gradually became aware of paths not taken. Digital regret can be immediate and constant. We can feel bad about missing something that happened 5 minutes ago, watching it unfold in real time through social media updates. Yet, paradoxically, the digital age has also given us unprecedented tools for addressing missing out. Virtual reality allows us to experience things that would be impossible in physical reality. Social media keeps us connected to communities and experiences across vast distances. Dating apps expand our potential social connections far beyond geographic limitations. The question is whether these tools actually reduce our sense of missing out or simply create more sophisticated forms of it. Research suggests that digital tools designed to reduce FOMO often increase it instead. The more options we see, the more we become aware we are not choosing. The more connections we maintain, the more social events we are conscious of not attending. This leads to a fundamental paradox of technological liberation. Tools designed to increase our options often decrease our satisfaction with the choice we make. Segment 5: Reframing Missing Out. Wisdom from different traditions. So far, we have established that missing out is neurologically real, psychologically complex, philosophically fundamental, and digitally amplified. But what if we are thinking about it wrong? What if missing out isn't a problem to be solved, but a doorway to be walked through? Let us explore how different wisdom traditions have reframed the experience of missing out into something generative rather than destructive. The Japanese concept of mono no aware, often translated as the pathos of things, offers a radically different perspective. Rather than seeing impermanence and missed opportunities as source of suffering, mono no aware suggests that they are what makes life beautiful. The cherry blossom is precious precisely because it blooms briefly. The experience you missed is poignant precisely because you can't recover it. In this framework, missing out becomes a form of aesthetic appreciation. We are not consumers trying to maximize experiences, we are contemplatives learning to find beauty in transience itself. The Sufi tradition offers another reframe through the concept of fana, the dissolution of the ego that occurs when we stop trying to accumulate experiences and instead allow experiences to move through us. Rumi wrote, "Try not to resist the changes that come your way. Instead, let life live through you. And do not worry that your life is turning upside down. How do you know that the side you are used to is better than the one to come?" From this perspective, missing out is resistance to the flow of existence. What we call FOMO might actually be the ego's attempt to control and possess experience rather than allowing ourselves to be possessed by it. Indigenous wisdom traditions often view missing out through the lens of relational ontology. The understanding that we don't exist as separate individuals having experiences, but as nodes in the web of relationships where everything is interconnected. In many Native American traditions, the question isn't, what am I missing out on? But what is the web of life asking of me right now? This isn't passive resignation, it's active listening to the larger patterns that connect all things. The African philosophy of Ubuntu, I am because we are, suggests that missing out on individual experiences might actually be participating in collective flourishing in ways we can't perceive. What looks like personal deprivation might be collective contribution, but perhaps the most practical reframe comes from what psychologists call satisficing versus maximizing. Albert Simon's research distinguished between two decision making strategies. Maximizers try to find the best possible option, while satisficers try to find options that are good enough. Maximizers report higher rates of depression, anxiety, and regret despite achieving better objective outcomes. They are constantly aware of what they might be missing. Satisficers report higher level life satisfaction despite sometimes making less optimal choices. This isn't about lowering standards, it's about recognizing that the pursuit of optimization itself can become a form of suffering. The ancient Greek concept of sophrosine, often translated as moderation or self control, actually meant something more like healthy mindedness or soundedness of mind. It wasn't about restriction, but about knowing when enough is enough. In our context, sophrosine might mean developing the capacity to feel satisfied with the richness of our actual lives rather than the infinite richness of our possible lives. Viktor Frankl, writing from his experience in Nazi concentration camps, offered perhaps the most powerful reframe of all. Everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. Even in the most constrained circumstances imaginable, Frankl found that humans retain the capacity to find meaning in their experience, not by having more experiences, but by relating differently to the experiences they have. Missing out in this framework becomes an opportunity to practice what Frankl called self transcendence, the human capacity to find meaning beyond our immediate circumstances. Segment 6: Practical Wisdom: Living Well with Limitations. We have taken a deep dive into the neuroscience, psychology, philosophy, and cultural dimensions of missing out. Now, the practical question: how do we actually live well knowing that we will inevitably miss out on infinite possibilities? Let's start with what doesn't work. Research suggests that trying to maximize experiences, attending more events, maintaining more relationships, consuming more content may paradoxically increase rather than decrease our sense of missing out. The optimization mindset itself appears to be part of the problem. What does work? First, what we can call temporal landmark thinking. Instead of viewing life as an endless stream of opportunities we might miss, we can recognize and organize our existence around meaningful temporal makers, seasons, years, life phases, significant relationships. Sonia Limbersky's extensive research on gratitude practices reveals something profound. People who regularly practice gratitude report greater satisfaction with their lives and improved well being. While the specific mechanisms are still being studied, gratitude practices appear to shift our focus toward appreciation of what we have rather than fixation on what we lack. Second, the practice of what we can call intentional missing out. Instead of trying to avoid missing out, we can consciously choose what to miss out on. This isn't deprivation, it's curation. Marie Kondo's approach to physical objects applies equally to experiences. We can thank the opportunities we are not pursuing and let them go with appreciation rather than regret. Third, developing metacognitive awareness of our missing out patterns. When we notice ourselves feeling FOMO, we can ask, what am I actually afraid of missing? What am I hoping this experience would give me? Can I find that elsewhere? Or do I already have it? Often, we discover that we are not actually missing out on experiences. We are missing out on feelings we think those experiences would provide: connection, adventure, validation, purpose, etc. Once we identify the underlying need, we can often meet it in ways that don't require consuming more experiences. Fourth, cultivating what Buddhists call mudita, sympathetic joy, or the ability to feel genuinely happy for others' good fortune. When we see friends traveling, achieving, or experiencing things we are not, we can practice mudita instead of envy. This isn't forced positivity, it's a recognition that joy is not a zero sum game. Finally, embracing what we can call the aesthetics of limitation. Japanese tea ceremony, haiku poetry, minimalist art, many of humanity's most profound cultural achievements have emerged from working creatively within constraints rather than trying to transcend them. Our limitations aren't obstacles to a meaningful life, they are the very structure that makes meaning possible. We began this journey asking whether missing out is an inevitable part of the human condition or something we can transcend. After exploring neuroscience, psychology, philosophy, and practical wisdom, I think we have discovered something more nuanced. Missing out isn't a bug in human consciousness, it's a feature. It's the shadow cast by our capacity to imagine, to hope, to dream of possibilities beyond our immediate circumstances. To be conscious is to be aware of what lies beyond the borders of our experience. But we have a choice in how we relate to this fundamental aspect of existence. We can relate to missing out as chronic deprivation, always hungry, never satisfied. Or we can relate to it as a doorway to a deeper appreciation for what we actually have and who we actually are. The goal isn't to stop missing out. The goal is to miss out consciously, gratefully, and with full awareness that every choice we make, including the choice to listen to this podcast right now, is also a choice not to do infinite other things. And that's not a tragedy, that's the gift of finite existence in an infinite universe. The next time you feel that familiar pang of missing out, remember, you're not broken, you're conscious. You're not deprived, you are choosing. And in that choice lies all the freedom and responsibility of being human. Thank you for spending this time exploring these deep currents with me. I welcome you to join me on this quest called Curiosity and Co. for more conversations about the questions that matter. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Feel free to email me using the address in the description below or share your comments here in the comment section. And until next time, may you find joy not just in what you experience, but in the infinite mystery of all you will never know. Until next time, this is Curiosity and Co. And I will see you around. Ciao.